All right, so we got our short shift fork in here. This one right here, that's first, second. That's first gear that way, second gear that way. Right over here. Engages in the next gear. And this is on the counter shaft. That's fifth and third gear right there. That's fourth. These were all fine here. The only one we needed to replace was first and second. That's the one that was skipping out of gear. So what was happening when you go into first, it wouldn't engage first all the way. So it would kind of skip like right there because it's not going far enough in gear. So it'll actually kick in and out of that gear, which is what it was doing. This is the one we polished took all the ridges out of the shift drum so everything would slide across it easy. Now we're going to go ahead and install it the rest of the way. What you can do, what I recommend doing, put a little assembly lube on everything as you're going back together. You can use gear lube or assembly lube. I'm using assembly lube just because it stays where you put it, not going to run off like gear oil will. We'll just put a coating on it. Put a coating on the shift drum here, and put a little bit in trap door too, right around here. Slides in. Then we're just going to slide this up through our shift forks here. You need to get that all the way in there, as far as where the screw is going to hold it in right here. This is your retention plate for the shift drum. So if you notice, it's got a little divot right here. If you look on the trap door, there's a little divot right over here. Actually, you can't see it from that side. So there's a little divot right here where this little clip slides into. And you just want to make sure that it's flat up against there. And then what holds the clip on is your shift detent or detente. So has a nylock on there. Nylock, you want to use a new nylock when you're putting this in there. And it wouldn't hurt to put a little assembly lube on this too. It's just going to slide up through here. So this one's got a slot too. It comes apart. There's a little divot right there, and this one's got a little pin on it too, so it's going to go right in there. So when you're going back together, I'll show you in a minute. You need to stick some lube on the bearings there. I've cleaned this thing so the bearings are completely dry, at least in here on this side of the transmission. And I'll put some assembly lube up in the needle bearings in the main drive gear too. Let's get this thing on here first. Okay, if you're not sure which way the shifter goes on like this. So it's got a little numbers will be facing out here. Your spring, when it's in there, your spring's going to pull down on that. So your detent is, you want your roller right on the edge of the shift star there. So we're good to go there. I'm going to take this back off. Try and get this clip in here. Okay. And we're going to put our little washer on there. And our new nylock. Make sure everything's set in there. Then when you're doing that, you want to make sure that this plate is flat in here, that it's actually in the little pins and the little divot on that thing. So an easy way to tell, if you look at make sure you're getting that clip in the right position. Look right there, and those two plates should be lined up like those are right there. Now we're going to go ahead and torque this to I think it was 18 foot-pounds or about that, because the bolt is big, but the threaded portion is only a 5/16, so it can't take a tremendous amount of torque. You don't want to snap that off, because I don't even know if they're available anymore. I hate to have to try and find one somewhere. That'll be good for that. Now what you got to do for the shift forks here. Now what you got here, you need to look down inside of your holes here to make sure the one's not lined up. It looks like it's lined up there. So all you're going to do here is drop this dowel right down in there, and it should go in all the way. All right, so we got those two in here, this one and this one. We need to get the last one in. Which is going to be just a matter of kind of applying light pressure to it and moving the shift fork back and forth. There, that one's in there. Just had to move it around to get it in. Now we can put our clips in there, because that's what holds them in. I'll show you here in a second. Now, the only thing that holds these in, these roll pins in, are these little cotter pins. They go in from this side. I think they say that, actually it does say, if you put them in the wrong way, if you put them in the other way, with the round side facing on this side, if you put them in the wrong way, it can hit the case, and in some instances it can hit the case and cause it to have shifts. There's a little ridge in the crankcases there where these ride really close to. Okay, this is the area right here where I was talking about, where the cotter pins can hit on the transmission. This little boss sticking out for the case bolt there, which if you're taking the cases, you got a case bolt here and one here, and then the three down at the bottom. One's on the front and on the other side. But that's what I was talking about right there, where the shift forks can hit it. So they kind of have to go in this way. Okay. Now what you need to do is want these things to bend this way. I'll show you in a second. Like that. Like that there. And then we're going to cut off any excess. These are just generic cotter pins. And just like that. And make sure when you cut them off that you don't lose any excess out of here. So you kind of, and that's really it for the shift forks. So we're pretty much ready to stick this thing back in the engine now. So put a little assembly lube on here, or in the bearing in the case on this end here. Put some on your shift forks before you install it. Just drench them a little bit. Put a little assembly lube on the main shaft and counter shaft and on the bearings over here. All right, so you got your transmission all back together here. I went ahead and slid this in here so I could mark it, show you guys what it is. This is fifth gear right here. So let me see if you can see this. We know that's fifth, meaning that you look at this shift fork right here, it's extended all the way out. Meaning this gear here, this slider right here on the main shaft, slid out this way into the main drive gear, which is in the case there. That makes it in fifth gear. Now, if we go back to fourth, here, we're just going to slide that shift drum over. And it's going to move. If you see it moving, slider right here, this is fifth and third. So it's going to stop right there. And if you notice this one right here, this far shift fork is starting to move. We're going to turn the shift drum a little bit, and you see it goes into fourth gear right there. Meaning that your shift star now is right there. That's fourth. Right there. So fifth, fourth, third, second, neutral, first. Let's see that or not. Do that over again. So this was fifth gear right here. That's fourth, which it's in right now. That's third, second, neutral, first. So I'm going to go ahead and work this through the gears here and show you. Okay, so we know we're in fourth gear right now. We go ahead and rock that over. We'll see this shift fork here moving. And you'll need to rotate it slightly to line the dogs up with the freewheeling gear. You see how it goes right in there? That's third right there. And if we keep going, you see this one right here, that's first and second. So it's going into second now, and same thing. You need to rotate it around because you got a slider gear, which is the one that the shift fork's on, going into a freewheeling gear. You see how that gear just freewheels on the shaft? That right there is second. And if you go on, next is going to be neutral. That's neutral right there. And then first gear is going to be right there. So if you have a little trouble understanding which one correlation to the shift star, you can mark the shift star. I just used a marker on there, just Roman numeral markers, and make it a little bit easier. But point is, you'll know that there'll be one notch in there that doesn't match up with any of the rest of them. That's neutral. In this case, that's first. So rotate it over. That's neutral right there. One with the big U in it right there. That's neutral. So first, neutral, second, third, fourth, fifth. If you have a 6-speed transmission, it's going to be the same. You're going to have one more notch that goes into sixth, or if you had a 4-speed that uses a shift drum type transmission, you'd have shift star with 4 plus neutral. Go ahead and put some on the main shaft here. Smear it around a little bit, put some on the counter shaft. Should be good. Now, one thing too, you need to make sure that your dowel pins, which are here, down here, are in place, not wobbling around. Lines up your transmission there. It kind of helps hold it in place. To kind of help your shift drum there, get it lined up right. I'm just sticking these in here to guide them right now. We're not flat yet. So what you don't want to do, you don't want to use the bolts to draw it in. You'll end up breaking something or bending something. I'm just sticking those in there as a guide. There we go. We're in there now. So you might have to jiggle stuff around and try a couple of different gears to get it in there. Wiggle it. Make sure that sometimes the shift drum doesn't line up right, so you kind of have to lift up on it when you're installing it. And these two here, 18 foot-pounds. Now we need to go ahead and put our spring on here, which you can see that down there. Need to put our spring on here, which just clips into the detent. And then there's a little boss down here that just clips on that side of the detent, and then goes around this little boss that's right here on the case, a little nub sticking out, really. That's it there. And much like a big twin, you'll adjust it. What happens is your pawl can move so far one way, so you'll do this in third gear. We'll start off. You're in third gear. Make sure it's actually in third gear. And roll the wheel around, whatever. Stick your number 32 drill bit in there, and you should feel it hit up against the arm there. And then if you need to adjust it, loosen your lock nuts, and you can move the plate one way or the other till your bit just slides in there. What you're checking is, if you see that little pen right there, checking between that pen and the shifter pawl. Then what you'll do is, if you rock this thing back one way and back the other, you should have it equidistant. I don't know if you see that. See, the drill bit method works, but I like to check it like this. You're not going to pop it in the next gear, but you're not going to pop it in the next gear, but if you lift up on it, you'll feel a little bit of spring pressure, like right there. You go back the other way, there's no spring pressure before it wants to start pulling into the next gear, moving the shift drum. So we're going to loosen that up. We're going to set it about center between the two places. The drill bit method works, but double check it. We need to move it this way slightly, but it's a lot more precise than just using the drill bit method, because you got error, a little bit of error can be in there. So let's see what we got now. And see, we're about equal now. If you go right here, you feel a little bit of spring pressure right there as movement. And then it springs back. Then we'll go the other way. Got about close to the same, or closer than it was just doing the drill bit method. So we're gonna let that go right there, and that's our adjustment on there. Go ahead and lock these down. Again, new lock nuts. You're gonna torque these to about 12 foot-pounds. So sometimes on a bike you'll have, if you've dropped it, you dropped your bike and it's hit the shift lever, it'll actually knock it out of adjustment. This bike here, we already tried adjusting it one time before when we first got it, because it was doing that stuttering in first gear thing where it was kicking it out of first gear. So that's the first thing I did, was adjust it just like I did. And it's still skipping in first gear, and then just kind of had other stuff to do. So we just put this bike in the corner, and we're just now getting around to it. But that's your shifter adjustment there. Again, 1/4 20 lock nuts, 1/4 20 nylocks, and you can check. Sometimes these shift stars, they updated them, and I want to say 97 or 98. The old style were rounded, so it didn't have the sharper star peaks in here. But check these, because these things will wear out in the middle, so they'll kind of flop around. Belleville washers, or Belleville clip like this was obsolete. I was lucky enough to find one, and I'm pretty sure somebody still makes them. You could probably get them from McMaster Car or someplace like that. Probably sell you a whole bag of them for what you pay for one Harley one. Well, you can't pay for a Harley one anymore, because it's obsolete part. So anybody that's got them probably wants a ton of money for them. I was lucky enough to call somebody up I know, and they had 4 or 5 of them laying around in their toolbox. So that's where I got mine from. But that's it. I need to go paint this primary, and put the clutch and everything back on there, and put the primary on after it dries. We'll go on to, hopefully by then I'll have, well, not by then, I'll do that this weekend. But shortly I should have the metal for the rear sets I'll get started on the pipes. I've already been trying to source some material to do the pipes, doing the one exhaust, and we'll see how that goes. I'll definitely do a video on that, even if I screw it up badly, which I more than likely going to begin with. But we'll get her the way we want it. All right, everybody have a good weekend coming up. Thanks for watching. Thanks for subscribing. All that stuff. Thanks for the comments. Thanks for the shares. All that stuff. And appreciate you watching. Thank you.